Caitlin Clark is way more important to the WNBA than Tiger Woods was to men's golf, even though he was huge. And to then see this negativity, like why? And what should have been done? I looked seriously at the leadership of the WNBA. And how could you not be prepared for this moment? You've seen it happening in the Big Ten. You've seen it at Iowa. You see these TV ratings.
It's filling in for me, so I've been looking forward to this all week. Christine Brennan is one of the best sports writers in the country, has been for a long time.
Christine Brennan just exposed the WNBA in a major way. Guys, for this one here, we got to go all the way up to Indy. Let's get it.
The WNBA has just been exposed in a major way. A USA Today report revealed how league officials, including the commissioner, have mishandled Caitlin Clark's rise, showing signs of envy, poor leadership, and a failure to embrace her talent. The revelations are a serious blow to the league's reputation.
Came out, what she had to say in this book was going to shake the ground of the WNBA. She's been around for a very long time, and she knows the inner and outer workings of this league. Christine Brennan let it be known in multiple interviews that the WNBA was not ready for a superstar like Caitlin.
So, here's what happened. Christine Brennan, a longtime USA Today reporter with decades of experience covering women's basketball, just released a book that's sending shockwaves through the WNBA. Her revelations have shaken the league to its core, and the impact is still being felt.
The thing I don't get, Christine, is that in the case of Tiger and in the case of Jordan, the other players and the league around them, in Tiger's case, the PGA Tour, realized that a rising tide raises all boats and were incredibly supportive of Tiger and Jordan. With Caitlin, it seems like, for whatever reason, she's polarizing. Like she's been hit with more flagrant fouls than any player ever this year. They tried to come at you when you were writing a story and said, don't ask questions about why people don't like Caitlin Clark. But I'm going to ask you, Christine, why is she polarizing in your opinion? Why do people not embrace the phenomenon that is Caitlin Clark?
It's one of the big points in the book. I deal with all of this and my research and reporting, because I was perplexed as well. I mean, this is the greatest moment ever for the WNBA. Yep. We wish it happened sooner. Of course we wish it happened sooner. There were amazing players who, as you know, both you guys know, were toiling in obscurity, the male-dominated mainstream sports media ignoring them.
Brennan didn't hold back with a feel-good narrative or surface-level praise. Instead, she went deep with hard-hitting investigative work, uncovering just how unprepared, disconnected, and even resistant the WNBA has been toward its biggest rising star. We're talking about Caitlin Clark, the player who brought massive attention to the league almost single-handedly and shockingly. It seems many inside the league resented it from the start.
From home, like everybody else. And I think, guys, that actually helped me understand as a journalist the fascination, because I've covered a lot over my career and been very fortunate to be at Wimbledon's and Super Bowls and Tiger Woods and you name it. I've covered it. And I'm so lucky to have done that. And I found myself fascinated. Like, who is this? And I'm getting text messages from guys who would never have watched a second of women's basketball. Good guys. They want their daughters to play sports. I mean, good people, but just And they're texting, are you there? I'm watching. Are you seeing this performance? And that told me something that I actually was very helpful to be at home watching it versus being on press row talking to a bunch of other journalists, that like, okay, there's something going on in the country here. And it's everyone's fascinated and people are standing in line for hours in the cold around the Big Ten, this barnstorming tour. And it's all about a basketball player who happens to be a woman.
The book reveals that the day after Caitlin Clark declared for the 2024 WNBA draft, Brennan reached out to a top league official, and that's when things took a surprising turn. This official, seemingly out of touch with reality, told her that Clark's arrival was the biggest moment for the league since Maya Moore. Now, let's be clear, Maya Moore was an incredible player, but outside of hardcore basketball fans, she didn't have widespread recognition. That's where Brennan's insights stood apart. She saw what the league didn't. Clark wasn't just another star. She was a cultural phenomenon in the making. While others made lukewarm comparisons, Brennan recognized the magnitude of what was coming. A player who could bring national attention to women's basketball on an unprecedented scale. And how did the league respond to this once opportunity? They did nothing. Instead of preparing or capitalizing on the moment, they stood by idly. The level of misjudgment is almost hard to believe.
Authorized, which is not ominous at all. You want it to be unauthorized because I can tell the truth, unvarnished. Caitlin's quoted throughout the book. She was great answering any question I asked her, but dealing with these important issues. So you've got a 74% black league. We understand this. I mean, I'm white. You know, Ramona, I think you guys are white, but we have no idea what it's like to be black in America. And I say that. Let's be brutally honest here. Here comes a white woman from Iowa, and she's going to be the biggest superstar. Now, absolutely, the spotlight's shining on her. Finally, it's shining on all these other players who deserved it for years but never got it. And that's a wonderful turn of events. But instead of focusing on the positives, sadly, the WNBA players, so many of them, not all.
Now, here's where things get even more revealing. Brennan's book doesn't just highlight a lack of preparation, it exposes a complete disconnect between league leadership and the reality unfolding around them. According to her reporting, WNBA officials genuinely didn't believe something like the Caitlin Clark phenomenon was even possible. They were so used to being overlooked in the world of professional sports that the idea of mainstream success seemed unimaginable. Think about that. The people running the league didn't believe in their own product. So when a generational talent like Clark declared for the draft, they treated it like just another routine event. It's like owning a restaurant and being stunned when customers actually show up, and it gets worse. While the league was sleepwalking through the biggest opportunity in its history, media members and independent creators were already ahead of the curve. They had been following Clark since her days at Iowa, recognizing her star power and loyal following. They knew that her fans weren't going anywhere once she turned pro. Meanwhile, league leadership completely missed the signs. The numbers speak for themselves. In 2023, the Indiana Fever averaged just 4,000 fans per game, a crowd size smaller than many high school games in Texas. But when Clark played her first preseason game, fans were lining up outside the arena 2 hours before the doors opened. For a preseason game, even security staff were caught off guard. They'd never seen anything like it.
And an antagonist. And I've argued that the NBA could use a little bit more of hero and villain to popularize the sport again. The WNBA does not need that, because for a lot of America, Caitlin Clark is the hero. And anyone that comes to Caitlin Clark's defense is a hero. And everyone that flagrantly fouls her, speaks poorly of her, acts like she's not great is the villain, and then vice versa on that. How big of a part of the story is that when you look at the conflict surrounding Caitlin Clark? We got grown men on talking head shows wanting to fight each other over women's basketball and talking about it, right? We've got all these hot takes about all this going on, Christine. How big of a part of the story is that for you, and is that for this book?
I deal with it for sure in the book. And, you know, I think what we've seen is surprising to me. Having covered women's sports as well as men's, you know, for the length of my career, you would have thought that the arrival of this superstar in the WNBA would have been...
And how did the league respond to this surge of unprecedented attention? Did they embrace it? Roll out the red carpet for their new superstar? Launch a bold marketing campaign around the momentum they had? Not even close. Instead, they appeared almost irritated by the spotlight. It was as if they were more comfortable with being overlooked than dealing with actual success. One of the most striking revelations in Brennan's book is the jealousy that seemed to run through the league. From players to officials to veteran media members, many appeared resentful of Caitlin Clark's immediate impact. Here was a second-year player drawing more attention than athletes who had spent years building their careers in the WNBA. The arenas were selling out, TV ratings were hitting record highs, and suddenly, the entire sports world was paying attention to women's basketball, and not everyone within the league welcomed that shift.
And here comes Caitlin Clark, and let's say it, and I say it in the book, I go into this in depth, a white woman from Iowa in a 74% black league. That's an issue. The book is the first real journalistic look at this entire season and at Caitlin Clark and what she's done and all these issues that are out there. No holds barred. I shy away from nothing. And I look at the way players like Diana Taurasi, Brianna Stewart, Cheryl Swoops with her flurry of falsehoods, Cheryl Reeve, the Olympic coach, Gina Auriemma, really tried to minimize her. And we're very critical of her. That stunned me. You should be saying, this is great. You don't have to cheer for her. You guard her. You play tough. She's not a victim. She loves to throw it at people. She's feisty and tough out there. And that makes her, I think, even more appealing to so many people. But for this group of people to want to say such negative things and be so wrong about her, okay, fine. It's a free country. You can do what you want. But what she's doing by going into the WNBA, so Caitlin Clark is way more important to the WNBA than Tiger Woods was to men's golf, even though he was huge to men's golf. And to then see this negativity You'll probably, the next question would be, or your viewers and listeners are probably say, okay, so like why and what should have been done? And I looked seriously at the leadership of the WNBA. And how could you not be prepared for this moment? You've seen it happening in the Big Ten. You've seen it at Iowa. You see these TV ratings. 4 million more, as I said, watching the women than the men. I think it's worth repeating a few times because it is a stunning statistic, guys.